I'm John McQuay with 8541 Tactical, and this is Mail Call Mondays, the show that answers your questions about precision rifles, optics, and equipment. Well, we're going to get back to our question and answer format, the reason that we originally started this show, and we're going to kick it right off with a question from Facebook. Rob asks, what are the differences between the stock and chassis systems and the pros and cons of each? Well, Rob, there are a bunch of differences between stocks and chassis systems depending upon what manufacturer you're getting your stock or your chassis system from. I grabbed a couple of different stocks and a chassis that we had here that we're getting ready to go through. Some of them you'll recognize from earlier episodes, and one is coming up. We haven't got it on a rifle to review yet, but I think you guys are going to be really interested in it. First of all, let's start off with your average stock. I noticed that you earlier said you're running a bone stock Remington 308. So your Remington 700 probably comes in a stock very similar to this. Now this is the Hogue overmolded rubber stock off of our Remington 700 SPS Tactical AAC SD, or as you guys may know it, the Budget Precision Project. Now this is the basic BDL type Remington stock. Now what BDL means is it has an internal box magazine and a hinged floor plate on the bottom. If I roll it over here, you'll see that we have our trigger guard and our floor plate is one piece. If we push forward on the latch on the trigger guard here, then we can open our floor plate. Normally that would just spring open, but I don't have a magazine or a springer follower in here, so you actually have to kind of swing it open. But a BDL has this hinged floor plate that allows you to drop your rounds out the bottom. There really isn't a whole lot to one of these stocks. Now, BDL stock can come in several different formats. It can come in the standard walnut. It can come in just regular plastic like you get on most of the SPS offerings. The Hogue overmolded has these aluminum pillars inside of it, which give you a little bit more consistency when you bolt the rifle into the stock, but really there's not a whole lot to it. Now if you move up into stocks like the Bell & Carlson, then you'll still have your hinged bottom plate, but you'll have an aluminum chassis in here that allows you to bolt the rifle system right in and get very good consistency. Now the thing about these types of stocks is we have this forend here that tends to be a little bit tapered. Then we have a regular pistol grip, and usually we have a pretty good drop here at the comb. Now the problem that you run into this is these kind of combs were originally designed for rifles with iron sights. Iron sights are very close to the bore of the rifle, so you want your cheek a little bit lower on the stock to be able to line up with iron sights. Now when we start putting scopes on the rifle, we're raising that line of sight up, and we have to raise our eye up a little bit here in the back, so it usually requires a higher and higher comb. Now most of the factory BDL stocks that you run into have a fairly low comb. Even the H&S Precision stocks that you find on the 700 police models, they have a fairly low comb to them, and what we'll end up doing is taping foam to them to raise that up. Now that is your average Remington 700 BDL stock. Now when we start making upgrades to the stock, some guys just really like the feel, the traditional feel of the stock. They really like that curved pistol grip. They really like the feel of the forend of a traditional stock, and that's quite all right. But if we're going to use this in a tactical match, or we're going to use this as a law enforcement duty rifle, then there are some additions that we can make to it that are going to make it a little bit more competitive. Now, as I talked about earlier, when you get up into like H&S Precision or Bell & Carlson stocks like the one we have here, they have an aluminum chassis inside of it. There's actually an aluminum bedding block here that the action bolts into. And the benefits of that is it doesn't require any glass bedding. You take the stock out of the box, you grab your action, you drop it in, you bolt it in, and you're good to go. No extra bedding. If you switch out actions or change stocks to a different rifle, then you don't need to grind the bedding out and rebed it. It's good to go. It offers very good consistency. Sometimes, depending upon the action and depending upon the stock itself, you may find an accuracy increase by skim bedding the stock, putting a very light layer of epoxy bedding between the aluminum bedding block and the action, just to take up any of the voids that may be in there. But we get sub-minute angle accuracy just bolting your average action into this stock. So it's a very good way to go. Now, as we mentioned, this is a Bell & Carlson M40 style stock, but we still have, the comb is as high as you can go on this stock and still be able to remove the bolt without removing the action from the chassis. It actually has this little indent here right in the front of the comb to clear the bottom of the cocking piece as you bring the bolt back. Even so, with that on there, with our Remington 700 action in here, with a 10 power scope with a 40mm objective, we still have to build up the comb a little bit for me with my face type to be able to get a good cheek weld and get a good line of sight through the scope. Now, the addition here is we went ahead and we put on a Triad Tactical stock pack, and that raises our comb up a little bit, gives us a little bit extra storage space, and we've got room inside that we could actually put an Accuracy International 5-round magazine in there if we wish. So for instance, if you're a law enforcement sniper and you wanted to carry around with, or a magazine with barrier rounds in it, then you can go ahead and throw that in the stock pack and be good to go. Or if you have something like a small data book or a small notebook, that'll fit in there. I usually put scope Allen wrenches or scope cleaning cloth in there. Generally works pretty well. You don't want to load this thing up too heavy though, because then it really adds to the overall weight of the system. But it's a real nice, very quick way to fit the standard stock a little bit better to you. Now, of course, you can just go ahead and tape some sleeping mat and foam on there and bring it up, and that works just fine. Done it for quite some time. You just got to make sure that you notch it so that you can get that bolt out of there. What that does give you a problem with those, sometimes you build it up too far and you have problems getting a cleaning rod through there. So keep that in mind when you go building those combs up. Now, coming forward, one major addition that you'll want to do if you're actually going to try to compete with a standard stock is you need to put some kind of magazine system into the stock. And that's one of the drawbacks of these, is the magazine system is now going to be an added expense that you add to the overall cost of the stock. Depending upon where you purchase it, you're going to have to take the stock and the magazine system and send it off to a gunsmith to have it inletted, I can't speak today, have it inletted for that magazine system. Now, there are guys that have taken Dremel tools and done it themselves. This is a Surgeon magazine system on this Bell & Carlson stock. When we originally got the stock was inletted for the BDL bottom metal, and to get the Surgeon bottom metal into it, it required quite a bit of material to be removed. The original intent was I was going to go ahead and do a how-to video on how to do it with a Dremel tool, but once I looked at it, it really wasn't feasible. It was going to take a long time to do it, and there's really a good chance of jacking up the whole works here. Well, what we did instead is we sent it back to Bell & Carlson, and they went ahead and cut the inlet for the Surgeon bottom metal in it for us, sent it back to us, so that fit. Now, originally when we talked about this on the Budget Precision project, I told you guys that Bell & Carlson was going to be offering services where they would give you a stock that was already cut for your bottom metal. That was the information I had at the time that we produced that video. Bell & Carlson has since got a little backed up on other projects. I talked to them at the SHOT Show this year, the 2013 SHOT Show, and they are still intending to go ahead with that, but they don't have anything in place as of yet to take your orders for stocks that are already inletted. You guys have asked for it, they have heard it. A lot of you that watch the show have called in and asked them about that. They will be offering it in the future, so just hang tight. Of course, when they get that set up, we'll make sure we announce it here on the show so you guys know. But the magazine system is something that you really, really want in a rifle that you're going to use to compete with. Now, if you're just going to use the system to hunt with, it's really not necessary. It's nice if for some reason you're hunting somewhere that requires you to unload your rifle, if you're crossing roads or crossing fences, that kind of thing. Then it's really a whole lot easier just to drop the magazine, stick it in your pocket, do what you need to do, slap the magazine in and load the rifle when you're done. So the magazine system will make things a little easier there. Also in law enforcement, it's not really a mandatory thing, but it's nice to be able to switch your ammunition quickly and to be able to unload and reload your rifle depending upon what your department SOPs are on how you have to store this thing. So if you like traditional stocks, then you really are going to need to be able to build the comb up to fit your face, and you're going to need to add a magazine system to it to allow it to be competitive or to give you a little bit of added utility. So that's really the few drawbacks to the traditional stocks. Now we'll cover a couple more drawbacks here when we get into our chassis systems. Now let's talk about chassis systems. There are a huge number of chassis systems available, especially for rifles like the Remington 700. I couldn't even sit here and list them all off by heart. Instead of trying to go through the pros and cons of each and every chassis system, which actually could take us like 3 or 4 episodes, I'm just going to grab a representative chassis system and we're going to talk about some of the features on it. Now the chassis system that I grabbed for this is a Cadex Strike 30 chassis system. The reason I grabbed the Strike 30 is because it has features that can be found on quite a few different chassis systems, and this has some really nice added advantages that I'm going to talk about. And before you get all wrapped up in it, we are going to do a full review on this chassis system. So this is just a real quick touch on chassis systems in general. The first thing that you will notice is the forend on this chassis system. The Strike 30 chassis has a tubular forend like you would find on an AR-15 or an AR-10, some type of AR platform. And the nice thing about the tubular forends is it allows you to add rails wherever you want to add a railed accessory. I like these kind of tubular forends because you can take the rails off and save weight, or you can put the rails on wherever you need them. This is a big benefit if you're a law enforcement shooter, or if you say you shoot varmints and you want to be able to add a light to the system, or you utilize night vision and you want to add a IR illuminator, something of that nature. Anytime you need to attach something to the forend of the rifle, then the rail system is a nice thing to have. Also on the bottom here, you can put a Picatinny rail at the forward edge and it allows you to use a quick release bipod. You can put a Picatinny rail on the front end of a standard stock. And guys that have several different rifles, that's generally what I recommend, because then you can go with something like an Atlas version 8 bipod with a quick release on it, and you can spend some more money, get a nice bipod, and then you can switch that bipod between rifles very quickly depending upon which one you're going to grab and take out on that day. So that's nice to have. Being able to move your rail system or your rail sections around means that you can keep a smooth section to grip or a smooth section to ride on the barricades and not worry about tearing up your hands or tearing up your rail. That is one of the advantages of the tubular forend for more civilian shooters. Now when you get into law enforcement, you have a great big huge advantage because you can install a clip-on night vision device without any modifications to the stock or to the rifle. When you're looking at a traditional stock, you don't have anything up here to be able to mount a night vision device on. If you want to be able to do that, you're going to have to go with something like a Badger EFR, an extended front rail, and that's going to be an added cost to have a gunsmith inlet that into your stock. And stocks like the Bell & Carlson, you can do it. There's enough meat up there. Some of the stocks like the H&S Precision stock that is on the Remington 700 LTR, they don't have enough meat in the forend to be able to put an EFR in there, so you're pretty much stuck. So the ability to grab the chassis out of the box and add a night vision device is very nice. Now as we come back, you'll notice back here, chassis system already comes with a magazine system. It's no added expense, no gunsmithing, no waiting for your stock to come back. It's already ready to go. This one here accepts Accuracy International magazine, so right off the bat you can install a 5-round or a 10-round magazine of your choice and you're good to go. Has a nice mag release sitting here just forward of the trigger guard. The Cadex Strike 30 chassis system actually uses steel bedding points but most chassis systems that you find will have aluminum bedding blocks or aluminum bedding points inside the chassis. So again, there is no skim bedding, there's no glass bedding that needs to be done to it. You simply take the chassis out of the box and you bolt it in and you're ready to go. Now as we come further towards the back, now we run into the real advantage of chassis systems. This chassis here utilizes a AR pistol grip, but you can replace the pistol grip with whatever kind of AR type pistol grip you want. So if you like a fatter pistol grip, you can do that. This one comes with the Ergo Tactical Deluxe pistol grip, which is actually my favorite AR pistol grip for precision ARs. But you could put a Magpul grip on there if you want, a Tango Down, factory A2 grip, whichever you want, you can stick that on there. It just can't have a duck bill. If it's got a duck bill, you got to cut the duck bill off. So that's an advantage. If you utilize both an AR system and a chassis system, then you can set the grip up to be the same between both of them. That way the weapon feels very similar. Now we come back to the buttstock here, and this is one of the biggest advantages of chassis systems. With this stock, you have a fully adjustable chassis, or a fully adjustable stock. Instead of like the other chassis where you have to build up foam and all this other nonsense on here, on the Cadex, we have buttons on the back to be able to release it, and you're able to alter your comb height just by hitting the release and sliding it up and down to wherever you want, and then locking it in. You can adjust the length of pull just by hitting the latch here, and then you can slide the buttstock in or out to wherever you want it, close it, and lock it back in. This chassis also has the ability to adjust the height on the recoil pad, which is really nice for various shooters in various positions. If you shoot this rifle mostly in the prone, then you can crank that pad up to really match up with where your shoulder pocket is going to line up. If you shoot it offhand, you can drop it down to raise the rifle up a little bit in the pocket. It's really just nice to be able to fit it to where you need to fit it. Now, since the adjustments are all toolless, which they are on quite a few different chassis, that means you can quickly jump from shooter to shooter and readjust this. Now, on this chassis, it is somewhat ambidextrous. There's a little bit of a cutout here on the cheek piece to be able to allow you to remove the bolt out that side, but you can still get your face on that side and shoot it. It may not be the most comfortable thing for a left-handed shooter, but you can switch back and forth. However, that is one of the advantages of a standard stock. Standard stocks are generally fairly ambidextrous. You can switch to either side very quickly unless you have one of these stock packs on here. A stock pack makes it a little bit more difficult to switch sides, especially if you got a lot of stuff in there. That's one of the other reasons I don't like to stick a lot of stuff in my stock pack, because I can still crush it down and get a left side cheek weld if I need to. Now, the chassis system, since we can make all these adjustments to the different dimensions of the stock, we can fit it to a wide variety of shooters. If you're an agency and you're going to build up a rifle for a professional sniper, and then that sniper changes job positions, because that does happen, then you can hand this rifle off to another sniper and set that up specifically for them. It also looks a little bit more professional when you get caught in the evening news and you're not walking around with the stock with duct tape all over the back of it. Looks really shouldn't factor into it, but you know, when you're dealing with the media, sometimes it does. So that is kind of a basic overview of the differences between chassis systems and stocks. Now, the big drawback is cost. On some chassis systems, if you go with something, if you're looking at something where you need a magazine system, you need an adjustable comb, you need adjustable length of pull, you need night vision mounting on the front, then it's really going to cost you a very comparable amount to set up a traditional stock with all those features, or to just buy a chassis system that already has those features built in. Now, if you don't need all those features, then you're going to be much better off money-wise going with the traditional stock. They tend to be quite a bit cheaper. The Bell & Carlson type stock here, without the surgeon bottom metal or the cheek pack or any of that additional stuff. Just the stock with the aluminum bedding block inside of it, it's going to cost you about $300 depending upon where you get the stock, what kind of sales are going on. So that's a general area. You're still going to be money ahead if you decide to put a front rail on here for attaching a bipod. You're still not going to be that expensive. Usually when you get into chassis systems, for the very value-minded ones, you're starting to float up around $1,000. There are quite a few chassis systems out there that you can get just the absolute bare bones chassis and upgrade from there. Ashbury Precision Ordnance just introduced their Super Sport chassis, which allows you to get into a basic chassis for about $1,000 and then upgrade the pieces as you go. So if you need a railed forend, you can upgrade to that later on. If you need a fully adjustable stock, you can upgrade to that later on. So it gives you some options there. When you get up into chassis systems like the Strike 30 here, that is loaded with pretty much every feature that you could want on a chassis system, the price point goes up considerably. Now, some of the things that you're paying for with the Cadex Strike 30 that we don't have pictured here is you get a one-piece 20-minute angle rail. We're missing the back rail section here because we don't have an action installed, but there's actually a rail that comes all the way back and ties into the top of your action that gives you a 20-minute rail already. You have the steel mounting points. You have a number of different rails. This is actually one of the newer Strike 30 chassis that comes with a shorter front rail or shorter front tube as well, and we'll show you that when we do the full review on it. So it really is mission adaptable. You can change it up to whatever the current need is. As I mentioned, it has the magazine system already built in, so you can use whatever magazine you want. And the also added little feature here is that you can fold the chassis and lock it in a folded position if you wish, if for some reason whatever you're doing requires a little bit lower profile package. This is really nice if you travel because you can fit the whole deal in a much smaller hard case, and I have run into problems in the past where I've had to find a way to cram all my gear into a small rental car when I actually ordered a large rental car, but that's all they had. For certain roles and certain missions, it's nice to be able to fold it down and fit the system in a much smaller package. So that's one of those little things to bear in mind. Also construction, when you start getting into the top end chassis systems, the machining and the construction of the chassis is just absolutely phenomenal. They are very, very well made, and they will take an incredible beating. I can tell you, for instance, with the Accuracy International chassis systems, either the AICS or the AX chassis system, those will take quite a bit of abuse. You can break them, you can break anything, but you very rarely ever see them broken. And when you do break one, you know, it's an event. It's something that's really noteworthy. So that's just basic differences between your average BDL Remington stock and your full-blown chassis system. As I said, there are a ton of different chassis systems out there on the market, so you can really shop around and see what it is you need in a chassis system. On the value price side of things, you have the XLR Evolution chassis or the McRees chassis systems. On the top end of that price point, you have the Cadex Strike 30 chassis, the full-blown Ashbury chassis systems with all the accessories and all the trimmings. So you can go from really affordable to really out of the ballpark, does everything that you could possibly need pricing. So it's really something you need to shop around with. On the middle of the road, a basic stock with a magazine system will accomplish 99% of what your average shooter needs to accomplish. This is the middle of the road. You can fit it to you. It's not something that's very easily reconfigured for various different shooters, but the reality of the situation is, how many of you guys out there need to make one rifle fit everybody? You generally don't. You just need to make that one rifle fit you, and we can do that with a standard stock. Standard stocks tend to be a little bit lighter than chassis systems, so you save a little poundage if you're taking this thing out to the field and hunting with it. So hopefully that answers your question. And if you have any questions about the stocks that we showed here, or any other questions for future Mail Call Monday episodes, you can leave them in the comments section below, or send them to us on Facebook or Twitter. If you like this video, please make sure you give us a thumbs up. If you didn't like the video, leave me a comment and let me know why. If you're a subscriber, thank you very much. If you're not a subscriber, please subscribe. It helps us show manufacturers that you guys are interested in what we're doing. That in turn allows us to leverage more product to review for you guys. So if you're not a subscriber, click that subscription button. It doesn't cost you anything. YouTube won't send you junk mail, and they'll let you know when we release new videos. Until next time, get out and shoot! So what do you guys think about the beard? I don't know. I'm undecided yet. We'll have to see. The wife hates it, but I kind of like it. Keeps my face warm. So if you got a question or comment about the beard, leave it in the comments section below.